All right. Welcome, everybody. Tonight, I'm really excited about this show. We have a very special guest. We have Robert on here, and we also have Mike, who's joined us before. And we're going to go over Robert's new app, I guess we could call it, that's going to help you with the word search in the past and future box. Welcome, Robert. Welcome, Mike. How are you doing?
Doing very well. A little nervous. I guess you could say there's a flutter of excitement around, but yeah, just butterflies in my stomach. The first time I've been on YouTube, but thank you for the invite.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for coming on. And Mike, last minute, I know I reached out to you this morning and you pulled through, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, happy to be here. Thanks for asking.
Great. So what he's done is made an app that basically helps you with word search, and we'll go over that right now because I'll probably butcher it all up. So Robert, if you want to share your screen and sort of give us a intro on how it works and show us some of the functions, and then Mike and I'm sure are going to have a bunch of questions about it.
Yep, no problem. All right,
great.
Can you guys see it now?
Let me pull it up here. All right, there you go.
All right, so first I'm going to start off with, well, I guess just the overview. So welcome to word search, kind of the title that JCB has in the chapter. And then I've got a bunch of different options here. The grid itself, the word search, and then some statistics. I'll drill down into each of these, but I figured a good place to start would be this about app section. I've got a README file or a markdown file that kind of describes everything, the key features, the grid operations you can perform. You can transpose the grid, which is kind of like flipping it on its from the rows to the columns and vice versa. You can reverse the rows and columns to find mirrored clues if you're into that. You can shift rows and columns to experiment with letter arrangements. There was a site out there, I think it was treasureinside.tools.com, that people were using for the word search, and it was taken down. I don't know if there was like copyright infringement issues or they forgot to pay their hosting costs, but that was taken down, and it did the shifting. And so mine does that also. So this is kind of like an advanced version of that one with a few extra things. You can hide characters to reduce clutter. You can set the current view as the default. So if you really want to play with, so like if we go to the consensus grid, don't flame me if this is not what you guys all feel is the consensus version of the word search, but figured it was a good place to start. It would highlight everything without someone having to go in and do it all manually. But you can, like, let's say you wanted to change the colors of all of these, like that's what you want your default grid to be, and you want to start from there every single time. You can set it as your default grid, and then once you clear everything, you can go back to that. Then that way you can, like, apply mini ciphers. That's kind of what I've been doing with it. But it's a way to get back to that, kind of like a saved state. So you can also clear all of the applied operations or perform a hard reset, which will also get rid of that default setting. There's formatting tools, so you can highlight all instances of a letter. I know people have been looking at like the frequency of letters, that sort of thing. And I have statistics for that, but this is, I'll skip over this. It's probably easier to just show it. The thing that I wrote the app specifically for the cipher tools and applying different ciphers, because I think that's a key to solving this thing. You can do this Caesar shift, Visioneer, at bash, which is reversing. So like A equals Z, Z equals A, etc. You can do a substitution, so you put in a full alphabet and then it'll swap all of the letters at once. And then the rail fence, which is kind of weird. I was on the fence, pun intended, about adding this one into the app because I don't particularly like how it rearranges everything in the grid, but it's available in case people want to use it. And then for the statistics that I have at the bottom of the app, I have letter frequency analysis and then also some hidden insights. So within Ready Player One, the book, the bad guys are the IOI. So a lot of people have theorized that maybe binary are used because they represent like the ones and zeros for the IOI. That could also be converted into Morse code. So if you have a string or highlighted letters that are only I's and O's, it ends up showing the binary and Morse code equivalent because people have been doing that also. And I wanted to do it for some things. So I'll show that as well. And then last but not least, you can export it to Excel. So I know a lot of people are doing their analysis in Excel. So if you are using this tool and you want to save it into your Excel file, you can export it to Excel and then you won't be able to see that because I'm just sharing this grid, but
sure.
It does export to Excel and it'll give you the state of the grid with all the colors that you've selected and whatnot. So that's kind of a general overview. So then the shifting, this is what the Treasure Inside Tools website did. You could shift things around.
Oh, wow.
I think you could highlight as well, if I remember correctly, but it's been a while since that site went offline. I haven't really used it since I made my own. But yeah, you can shift things if you're into that. Let me clear the thing because I can be a little busy. But actually, I'm going to put it back just because I think it highlights what it's doing a little bit easier. So you can move stuff down, up, shift these also. So that's what these little arrows are doing around the main word search grid. Then up here I have different transformations. So the transpose where it flips the columns and the rows. So so like EN, I guess ENA would then end up being up here, and then
okay.
So the first row ends up becoming a column. Then you can mirror the rows. So this is going to flip up to here.
Robert, do you mind if I just jump in and say,
yeah,
because some of our audience, right, they may be newer to the word search or newer to the book, right? I know, Eric, we mentioned a lot of people might have gotten the book around Christmas time, might be just looking into this, right? I think this tool that you've designed and developed is super cool because it makes this really easy to get in here and have a lot of functionality, a lot of different things that you may or may not already know how to do, right? So it helps some people that are really novices, maybe in Excel. It makes it really easy for them to get in, mess around with the letters like you're showing us, right? You're shifting the rows, you're shifting the columns. It helps them highlight things so they don't have to cut the page out of the book or make photocopies, right?
Yes.
It has a lot of like really simple functions, but also a lot of really complicated ones, which, I think we're going to get into maybe explaining a little bit more about the ciphers in a second. But I think what you've developed here is just super, super useful for anyone who maybe wasn't sure how to attack this word search.
Yeah, and my goal, I'm not necessarily using all of the functionality in this because I don't think that it's necessary to solve this. I'm very much on the cipher train and trying to apply 3 keys to unlock a secret message like down here. But I wanted people to have all the tools that were out there previously and then maybe some additional ones that they could use. In case it tickled their fancy, they wanted to use them. But yeah, as I'm going through this, if you guys have any questions about anything, I've been so in the weeds with this for so long that it's second nature to me. If you guys have questions or it's not clear, then I'd be happy to go over it. But yeah, like I said, I've been in the weeds with this for a long time. So if you guys don't understand the terminology, please let me know.
Yeah, I'd like to add to what Mike said. This is brilliant. A word I like to use when I come across some pretty cool stuff. Obviously, now can you? First of all, it's great that you populated already what's general consensus, right? Especially for somebody new to it, just to really cross reference on what they got, which I think is very helpful. Because when I first approached this chapter, I was like, man, this chapter is not for me. I'm not going to figure this out. And then I started seeing things that people were finding, and I had the hardest time understanding it until I sat down and tried to do it myself first. And when I did that, it started to come to me, right? Now I see that you have the letters in purple. Now, can you? I know if you sort of anagram them, you come up with different words and stuff. Did you add that function in there, or?
No, so I just added that reset to consensus like less than a week ago. I did it more so for myself because every time I was shipping a new version of the site, it was kind of resetting stuff for me, and I would have to go in and manually click all the colors. And I mean, I know like the back of my hand now and all the words and whatnot, but it was just like a much faster way to get to that point and then start manipulating it from there. But yeah, like you said about kind of working on a box that you like, I gravitated towards this one because there's a lot of like numbers and I think math involved, and I read Ready Player One, and I really enjoyed that book. I almost started mining Bitcoin when it first came out. One of my biggest regrets in life was not listening to my friend and buying a bunch of PS5s or PS3s to start mining Bitcoin. So for that reason, I kind of gravitated towards this one. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Kind of got frustrated and stopped and dropped in, took a break for a while. But after seeing your video interviewing JCB and some of those 1-year anniversary videos, it kind of reinvigorated me. And yeah, I'm kind of back into it now.
Yeah. Real quick, what did you think about him saying that really, you know, he said this about a couple other chapters, you know, Forrest Fenn, all he needs a poem, the Appalachian footpath box, all he needs a map. And then this one, basically all he needs the word search and the cryptogram on there.
So where did he say that? Because I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think that the themes within Ready Player One and then also the physical Bitcoin that he has in the chapter are keys or clues to solving this. So if you do have a quote that he had saying that all you need is the word search and the cryptogram, I'd love to go look at that video. I just rewatched your guys' interview. I don't remember him saying that, but I could have missed it.
Yeah, he didn't say it in ours. I had heard it somewhere else, but really even to that point when he said about you know, with a Forrest Fenn or something, or even the Appalachian footpath box, because I was really into the text in that one. And when he said all he needs is a map, it sort of like blew like 5 of my theories out of the water. But then I think about it a little bit more. It's even, you know, just because you don't need it, I mean, it could be some confirmers in there, you know. So, but
yeah, I could have swore at one point when he was being interviewed, he said that there's more to this chapter than just the word search and the crypto.
He did say that on Treasure Hunt with us, first interview with him a year ago.
So I kind of keyed in on that, and I have that mindset as I'm approaching this puzzle. Sure. For better or for worse, but yeah, that's kind of my approach to this right now, and how I'm using this and the other resources within the chapter.
Yeah, well, this is a wonderful tool that you got here. I like I said, when I first saw it, I was like, whoa, I got to check this out a little bit more. And I had a chance to play around with it a little bit because I'm really focused a lot on some other chapters now. But Mike and I were going to revisit this, and I was like, man, we not only have to have you on, I have to have Mike on as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I really dig it. Again, I kind of coded it for myself, but then I've been on Discord. I find Discord a little disjointed. It's hard to follow along with threads. It's not like the old forums from back in the day where you'd have a thread about one specific topic. It seems like everything's just kind of jumbled together. Like I can use the search features, but I just find it more of like a stream of consciousness. But I've gotten a lot of information from them and from Reddit and Facebook. And so I decided, if I'm not going to try to monetize it, I'm not going to make a bunch of money on this. I might as well just release it to all these people who have been helpful to me in this community that I've really come to be a part of and enjoy being a part of.
Yeah, that's a great thing about this community. All these resources out there that are basically free to everybody, and everybody's really putting out content, whether it be in YouTube videos or on Substacks or Mediums or even on the other social media sites. It's really been collaborative.
Yeah, and it's almost overwhelming. There's so much content now that it's hard for me to follow all of it. I mean, I'm going to admit that I have not seen all of your videos. I've not seen all of. There's a ton of different YouTube channels that are putting things out, and I've subscribed to them, but I've not gotten to watch all the videos.
Yeah, it's quite overwhelming.
Okay. So yeah, I'll kind of keep going again. If you want to stop me to ask questions or say anything, please do. So these two reversing the rows and columns for kind of mirrored things. I know people think that mirroring is a concept to be used to solve these puzzles, mainly in the lion's share, but they could apply here as well. So these erase functions, I guess they're also called like a trellis cipher. I wasn't aware of that, but I put them up here. It kind of makes it look like a chessboard. And if you do this, I've found a couple of interesting things in here that I can discuss later if we have time. I don't want to go over, but like, for example, this has been found by some people. So the word Caesar is on a diagonal if you do this trellis cipher. And so that's kind of led me to believe that maybe we are supposed to be using ciphers of some kind, that being one of them, and then also the lemon. Oops. Oh, that's because I shifted everything.
Let me just ask real quick, since we're starting to talk about ciphers, right? I will admit, a year ago, right, when this book first came out, I personally did not know what a cipher was. It was really new to me, trying to understand this world of like shifting letters and using all these different ciphers. And so Caesar's cipher, right, which you pointed out, seems to, in my mind, kind of like the intro to ciphers, right? It's like more or less a basic, intro level of a cipher.
Probably the easiest one. Yeah, that and maybe @bash, which is very similar. But yes.
Yeah, so like any cipher, right? And I know we already know that there's a translation for the cryptogram that's kind of widely accepted, right? But a Caesar cipher is very simply, right? So like if you have the letter A and you Caesar cipher it by a value of 1, it goes to B, right? Really easy way to kind of think about it. Again, just trying to explain for some of the audience who maybe has steered away from this chapter because they don't really know what ciphers are. I didn't, but I've learned a tremendous amount about them in the past year. And so it's really cool that your site makes it so easy to be able to shift these things, by different values in different ciphers.
So do you believe that those are necessary to solve the puzzle, or are you more of like a boggler or combination?
I for the most part, I don't like to boggle. I do definitely agree with ciphers, in some manner or form. I think they're here. I don't know if we've discovered all of them per se. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to hear, because I feel like the keys necessary for Bitcoin and then the 3 keys in Ready Player One, I think it's all kind of tying together. Like I'm going down that path, but I haven't figured it out, obviously. Otherwise, wouldn't be talking about this. I would be swimming in my massive wealth from the past and future box, the selling of Bitcoin. Okay, so after those two, the trellis ciphers, I'm going to skip over the ciphers just for now and hit the formatting. I think this will be a little bit easier to understand before we get into the hard-hitting cipher stuff. So here you can change the highlighting to whatever you want. And then, so like, let's say you want to apply it to all the letter Q's. You just want to see what they look like. It'll pop those, or it'll highlight all of those for you automatically. If you want to reverse it and remove the highlighting, you can do that. So you can quickly do that. There's a lot of E's. We'll see that later when I'm looking at the statistics. And then these are for the colors. That's like, I don't know, if you want to change the color of all of the highlighting, like let's say you don't really like that salmon color, you want to change it all to blue, you can just do that quickly. I just added those there for completeness. As a programmer, I felt like that in addition to the letters, I also needed the colors. These can get you into trouble, so use those with caution. I tend to use these. And there's also a erase mode. So like if you wanted to get rid of specific things to emphasize, like the word lilac, and when I get to maybe the rabbit holes that I've gone down, I can show you some things with that might make more sense. But anyways, so that's the highlighting. The ciphers, so this is kind of the meat and potatoes of the app. This is why I wrote it, is because I wanted to do this myself. So the Caesar, Mike, like you were saying, you can clear stuff so you can see it happening to all of the letters. All right, so Caesar shift, you're just taking a letter. So C, if we increment it 1, it's going to go to D. And it's going to apply to every single letter on here. They're all independent. It doesn't matter the highlighting. In some of the other ciphers, it does perform the cipher based on the highlighting. So back in the consensus, if we were to do, I'll get to that here in a second. So Caesar, you can go either way. You can go up or down, but since there's only 26 letters in the alphabet or 25 possible shift values, it just cycles over. When it gets past 25, it goes just back to what it was initially. And then in order to apply multiple ciphers, so if you want to stack them, what you need to do is commit the shift to the grid. So I know a lot of people have done 19 and you get John to confirm that, oh, you need 19. You can commit it to the grid, and then that'll be like your new default grid state. And then you can apply another cipher. So I've been doing that a lot, is I'll do the Caesar shift of 19, and then I'll apply a Visioneer cipher and try to do some other ones. So the Visioneer cipher, because of how the algorithm works, I decided to do it based on the highlighted letters. So in the case of, so lemon is a keyword that's used in Wikipedia and is a very common key for it. It'll apply distinctly to each of these. You can do it to the whole grid. I would just recommend clearing the highlighting. I almost added functionality to just ignore the highlighting when applying the Visioneer key, but I didn't particularly like that, because if you wanted to just do like this 5x2 box, for example, you would have a hard time doing that without having it like segregated by the highlighted color or string value. I might not be explaining that the best way, but it's essentially taking this string and applying the key, and you end up with that string. And it does that for each of these independently. It's not applying it to this version of the grid letters. So that's the Visioneer at bash. This is a really simple one. So it's like changing A to Z, Z to A, B to Y, Y to B. So it's like the reverse of the alphabet. So that's just like back and forth, back and forth. Substitution, this will not change the grid until you have a full 26-letter alphabet in there. But once you so let me grab, so this is the alphabet that's used in the cryptogram. So you can put the 26 letters in there, and then I think I used the X's for there's 4 letters that aren't used in the cryptogram or like aren't mapped, so I just used X's for those. But if you plug that in, it'll substitute the alphabet letters for these, and then you end up with a different grid. I did not find anything using that substitution alphabet, but it's there if you want to use it. But again, if you want to, let's say you really like the substitution output, you can commit it to the grid, and then you can stack another cipher on top of it. So I think that in order to solve this, you need 3 cipher keys, maybe 3 different ciphers and 3 different key values. And then you unlock something down here in this area. Who knows? I haven't been following the Discord chatter too much. I try to do it solo because I don't want to succumb to the group think that kind of happens in there. I don't want to assume anything and trying to figure it out on my own. Okay, so that's the different ciphers that you can apply to the grid currently. I might add some more here in the future, depending on if people really want them to, or I feel they're necessary to solve it. Down here, it's very busy, but essentially what you see is, so like the transparent or the ones without highlighting, there's 33 letters currently that don't have highlighting. These are the values just in order of from row down. And then here's the English letter frequency, so that I have to show the code. So like in the English alphabet, A, like let's just say it occurs 8% of the time or 5% of the time. I don't know what the value is. I've got it somewhere. This value right here is the percent difference of the English letter frequency for the letter A. So A is happening. So it'd probably be best if let's just clear everything and go to the consensus. So the purple message that he has that we anagram, as you can see here, the English letter frequency, so this 21 right here, that's kind of like a variance value. So what I'm doing is I take the absolute value of this, so how far away it is from its expected frequency, take the absolute value of all of these letters or all of these values down here and add them together. And so the lower the value is, the closer it is to the expected English letter frequency or English language frequency. And as you'll notice, like there's more E's. So red indicates that it's below the expected frequency. Green is above. And then the amount of highlighting, like so how opaque it is or how bright it is, those are the ones that are further away from the expected frequency. So if you were to get rid of all of the O's and just leave them as transparent with the other letters that we haven't quite figured out what to do with, you'll notice that up here, O is way above the expected frequency. So this would kind of hint to you that the O's are an anomaly and you should be doing something with that. So that's why I coded the frequency analysis. I did it both with the English language, but then also random. So 100 divided by 26, like a little less than 4%. So it's like their variance from, or the difference from that, whatever, like 3.8% or whatever it is. But yeah, so this kind of points out that the O's are an anomaly. And those need to probably be separated, and we need to do something with that. I mean, I know everyone's kind of figured that out by now, but that's one way that you could use this information down here if you're really into that. I haven't dug too far into that, but it was easy enough to code and just display for people. So that is available too. Yeah, that's kind of, I think that's all I had for
now. Are you able to say the words that are messaged when you anagram them, are you able to change those on there so you can actually see that while you're working around this word search?
So I don't have it to where it rearranges. I think that'd be kind of computationally expensive to anagram everything. So like more so with these long ones, like if you knew that this is one word, I think that would be pretty easy to do. But
could you like override it, just click on the box and change it? Or is it pretty much?
So you can't manually change the letters. I never thought to do that. I mean, again, like at that point, I'd probably export it to Excel and start manipulating it there.
Sure.
It'd be easier. But yeah, it's kind of hard to program all of the Excel functionality, that sort of thing, into an app that I coded for myself that I eventually just released to people. Microsoft has a large team of people that I think Excel. So
this is all a foreign language to me. So I have no idea what's behind that. But
let me jump in, because there's a couple other sites that maybe we can add as links underneath the video, or I can pop them in the comments after you post. But there's two sites that I'll like reference. One is an anagram site. It's an iterative anagram site. It's called Bolter. And so you can enter a bunch of letters. You can take a string of letters, and it'll create as many variances as possible out of those letters. And you can click on the words that it creates, right? So you had five letters that you wanted to anagram. It'll pop it in there and say, okay, here's all the 1-letter words it'll make, all the 2-letter words, 3-letter words, etc. And then when you click on it, it removes those letters and shows you what's left over. So that's a pretty cool site that people may or may not be aware of, but they can kind of pair it with a tool like this to help figure the anagrams out for themselves, right?
Right.
And then also too, going back to your ciphers, because this was a learning experience for me, right? Like I didn't know what the Vigneri cipher is and a lot of these other ciphers. So there's another site called Decode that maybe people know or don't know. And in addition to doing a lot of the ciphers similar to what you've programmed here, it does have a nice like write-up and explanation of what is the cipher, how does it work, right? So you can kind of learn a little bit too if you were newer like myself. And then you can kind of come back here and say, oh, now I understand that a little bit better, right? And now I can use this tool a little bit easier.
So I use that, I think it was the Decode site, to test all of this stuff. So when I was unit testing all of my cipher operations, I was going to that website to make sure that the output was the exact same. To just make sure for myself, but I didn't want to put a bad product out there that was doing things incorrectly. But yeah, I am very familiar with that site. I should probably link it because I use it as a resource myself. But I echo your sentiment, though, that using those other tools is very helpful. And then, that Decode was instrumental in teaching me about some of these ones, like more so like the rail fence and the substitution also. I kind of had a different idea about how the substitution worked. So I agree wholeheartedly with you. So then one more thing before I get into like the buttons. The buttons should be pretty easy. But like, let's say you have just the I's and the O's, because a lot of people think like there's binary or Morse code in there also. So if you have something highlighted with just I's and O's, I could probably extend this to be just any 2 characters. It spits out a binary representation and then a Morse code representation. You can plug those into other sites. I did not want to code the functionality to try and parse binary or Morse code and spit out a message. It's really hard to do because I think Morse code, there's not like a standard length for the letters in Morse code. It can be a different number of characters per letter. So then you end up with a ton of different combinations, and I didn't want to mess with that. I don't know if I don't think that it's part of the solve. It could be. But if I don't think that it's part of the solve, I'm not going to spend a lot of time coding it. I'm trying to solve it myself and win this prize.
Man, this is such a time saver. I don't know how many hours I've spent just trying to, set up this word search in like, Excel or something like that. And that alone, and populating the consensus.
Yeah. You probably didn't spend as many hours as it took me to code this thing.
I can imagine. I can only imagine.
For like a month and a half, and then I kind of dropped it when I was reaching out to JCB. I was going to ask his permission to sell it in the App Store, and I never heard anything from him or his team. And I was like, well, I should probably get his permission first before selling it. But if I'm not selling it, I guess it's probably fair use. I don't know.
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, you're just putting a bunch of letters on in a grid. I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Okay. Yeah, so I was a little worried about that, and then I just said F it and released it anyway. But if I get in trouble, I can easily take the site down.
Yeah, this is brilliant. I mean, like Mike said, I also had a mind block when I approached this one. It's just not something that I was really familiar with, and it wasn't really approachable until I started with the help of different consensus on different sites and trying to take that approach. But now this tool right here can really help somebody that normally wouldn't want to try this to actually, take a shot at it.
Yeah,
it's really helpful.
The beauty of the hunt in general is JCB wrote a lot of different puzzles for people, and they could gravitate towards the ones that they really liked. Like I started doing the Pokemon box first because I collected Pokemon cards when I was younger, and it was a little too fantasy and like the story of it. I just had a hard time. I felt like it was a little too abstract for me. I couldn't pick out clues very easily, whereas this one was kind of more up my alley as a programmer, like the cryptography with the Bitcoin and the math and numbers. I've always been pretty good with math and numbers, so this one was more to my liking. But I appreciate that JCB wrote a lot of different puzzles, the treasure map and the Pokemon story and the poem and all that. That way people had things that they could do and enjoy doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he really appealed to a very wide audience with that, and so very grateful for that. Especially when you're hung up on one of them, and you're like, oh, there's 3 other ones to look at or 4. So that is really good. Mike, do you have any other questions on this?
No, I was just going to say, right, I think the fun thing about the Past and Future box and this word search, right, is it's the puzzle, and I think the only puzzle in the book where you can actually have a definitive result that means something, right?
Quantitative, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. There's a result that you get from doing some of these things, which is why this website is so useful, because you can actually get something, you can make headway. Now, there's still going to be a lot of interpretation of, well, what does it all mean, right? What do I do with this information? But that's why I gravitated towards this chapter in the beginning, because you could get a result. You could figure out a way that you're advancing. Maybe you don't know how far, but we know that we're actually getting incrementally closer to a solve.
Mm-hmm. Or we hope so anyways. I'm just really, really hoping that something presents itself in this little 5x2 area, or just down here in the second to last row. Like I'm really hoping it says like I don't know. Well, I know Van Sickle is already been shown in here, but like some state park overlook, something like that. Like I wanted to say that. I was really into. Have you ever heard of a treasures trove? It was treasure hunt back in like early 2000s, where a guy hid 12 jewel encrusted critters in different state parks, and it would say things like that. You had to use I think it was a Polybius square to solve the puzzles, but then it would like specifically say a state park and an overlook or someplace specific in that park that you could go to. I'm like, I just really want this to say something like that. That way I have a definitive answer.
Now, with that being said, what are your thoughts on how the the clues to locations are going to appear. I had this conversation quite a bit with people. Do you think that there's going to be a definitive, actual location that comes out,
Yes.
or is it going to be an interpretation of a location?
No, I think it's going to specifically say state park or some location.
Yeah.
At least I really hope so. But yeah, I think it will. Yeah, I hope so. But
yeah, I do too. What about you, Mike? What do you think?
Well, I'm willing to share one, and I don't know if it means anything, but if you look at the center grouping of O's, okay, and you take the left O right there, and you go to TPEAK, right, and include that with the O, that does anagram to be Topeka.
Mm.
Now, does that mean anything? No, but I thought it was really cool that it was all on one line. It was based off the center O, and it is a location, right? And I know that Ohio's been one that's also been mentioned, as well as being found a couple of different times. But I thought there could just be something simple like that in this puzzle, where you just need to look at it in a slightly different way, and maybe you can find an actual location.
What do you think of the state abbreviations on there? The Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina.
It's a great question. And I think I was listening to the There's Treasure Inside the Unofficial podcast, and someone wrote in and talked about the anagram message, right, of like on bends or turns, and OR could be like a message for Oregon, right? And I thought that was a cool way of thinking about or, because you just kind of think it's part of the sentence. But I definitely think it's extremely possible that their abbreviations are, in fact, an outline for where the states are or where the treasure might be in relationship to those states.
So what are you guys' thoughts on the coin? Do you think it's a state boundary, or do you think it applies to the word search? And if so, is it okay to manipulate the direction of the coin?
Yeah, Mike, you can go first if you want.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for the longest time, I was really on board with Lake Tahoe and that border because, and I think it's been mentioned before, but, when you take some of these numbers like 12, 0, 9, 0, right, it actually gets you to that, like, basically that exact point in Lake Tahoe from latitude and longitude. And I might be misquoting the numbers, but it really lined up pretty well. But I think I just don't know, honestly. I'm curious, Robert. What do you think?
So I think that all the coins have dual meanings, and I don't think any of them are similar. So I think that the past and future coin, to me, represents hands on a clock. So you've got a clock. I don't think necessarily the time is important on it, but I do think that it's possible that it is the state border. I did an exercise where I took the coin and I enlarged it as big as I possibly could and then lined it up with the California-Nevada border, and it fits perfectly. Like the angle is perfect on it. I'm like, that's quite the coincidence. Like I realized that he has the hands on a clock, making it look like that because it's the past and future. There's like the time and numbers component to it. But I think that there's a dual meaning to that. Like with Pokemon, I don't know what the consensus is for that one, but when I look at that one, I see like a tire swing. So like something that kids could play on at a river or a lake or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
So like maybe it's near some sort of, obviously by water because of the picture at the end of the chapter. But I think it's going to be something like that. So I think they have dual meanings, but I haven't dug too far into the other chapters to have.
Yeah, we had a pretty good thought. Dr. R Squared does Substack on, and I've been doing a lot of Appalachian Footpath box videos, and using the coin to orient the map to line up with Little Rock Pond on the trail does perfectly. And I really like that way of using it.
I just started watching that video, I think, you and another person. I don't know.
Yeah, Ohio Jones. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We do those a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I got about 10 minutes into that and I started panicking, trying to get ready for this interview. To be prepared.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that's, because in the beginning, I recklessly discounted the coins. I thought, it's probably nothing. I didn't give it much thought, and shame on me for doing that. Hindsight, looking back, and then after him sort of implying or at least alluding to that it would be of use, and then seeing him in application and just started to look at him more myself. It's, changed my mind for sure, but also added more complexity to everything at the same time. But I would like to see when it's all said and done, how they're used, because I think that's one of the biggest, mysteries to me outside of, the other standard things in here of how he designed those and how they're used. I think it's pretty clever.
Yeah, I think they could be clues, but I don't think that they're clues necessary to solving it if you have the other stuff available.
Yeah.
Like I think you'll realize like, oh, that was really clever. Or like with the hands on a clock for the past and future box, I think it's just an ode to time and the theme of the chapter in general. But then like the border for the two states, like that could be a clue. But we just haven't quite nailed down where exactly it is yet, because I haven't found anything in this little box of characters yet. Like once I find that, then it'll make sense to me.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be a leading clue.
Now, what are your thoughts about, like you said, that, with a coin, it's probably more of a confirmer or something to that nature. Do you think that you need to find every clue in this word search or in the cryptogram or whatever to come up with a solve or?
Yeah. I think just because of how I'm approaching it, like, yes, I think I need to find, like, there's the 5 clues, but they're going to lead to probably 3 keys that you apply back to back, and then you end up decoding a message somewhere or a location somewhere. So like I think I would have to find them. Whereas you're kind of lucky with the Appalachian footpath box, because he said there's 3 different ways to figure out where you're going. I'm like, I watched that interview. That had to have been just so awesome for you to hear. Like, oh my gosh, there's so much information and ways for me to decipher this.
It was both good and devastating at the same time to me.
Yeah, it was a revelation. That was quite the bombshell. I mean, if you're talking about all the new information that he released during the 1-year anniversary interviews, like that was probably the biggest one, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was pretty big, because that's the box that I'm most, into right now, or for the past, probably 6 months, and sometimes I have to, as you as well with this, have to take a step back and just clear the mind a little bit, shake out the dust, and come back to it later. That's usually when I make my biggest revelations, is when I take some time off from it. But it's hard when you're making videos on it,
Yeah. Well, so like that, like you said, I was very much opposed to the 3 are on bends or turns. I was like, oh, there's no way. Like, it's got to be, there are no special bends or turns. But then I got to thinking about it last night. I kind of had a epiphany as I was rolling around in bed. There's 2 instances of the word 3. So there's that one right there, and then there's another one down here. I'm like, okay, why are there 2 3s? Well, what if there's actually 3 3s? I was like, that would make a lot of sense to have 3 3s. Like, that would almost like confirm itself. But there's that law. It's like the great law of small numbers or something like that, where it's like a lot of people find importance in small numbers because there's only so many of them. Well, 3 is like one of the smallest numbers there is, and I don't know if that means anything, or if it could mean anything. But I was like, man, maybe I need to rethink my assumption about that part of the anagram.
Yeah. I also found it, with those state abbreviations, Coincidence, possibly, but what to do with it. That's the whole thing. When you find something, what do you do with it?
Yeah. I don't even think it's necessarily state abbreviations. Like, yes, they are state abbreviations, but I was talking to someone in Discord, I think, like, what if this was Northern California, Southern California, Tahoe National Forest, and then Oregon up here. So, like, maybe there's state abbreviations, but I think they could also mean something else too if people are on the Tahoe train, which as of right now I am, but I could easily change my mind depending on the outcome of some of these ciphers.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, who knows, right? But I did find it clever that it was geographically, correct if it were to be a state.
So I just have one more thing. I want to shout out to the TTI unofficial podcast. Cody came up with something for the past and future box, and I applied it to this, and I was like, holy crap, like maybe this is a rabbit hole I need to start going down. So what he said at one point was he was talking about, okay, I want everything to tie into the theme of the chapter. And it's like, it's got to tie into both Bitcoin and Ready Player One. So I've always kind of started with this, which might be a bad thing to do, but I always shift at 19 because of this. Like, I think that's a pretty good confirmer that we need to do that step. And I'm just going to clear this. I'm going to highlight this X. So the solitary X in the grid, it starts that little 5x2 area. All right, so you shift at 19. And then, so this is what I was talking about, like with the Visioneer cipher, it does it based on the string, so it's going to change the outcome for the green versus the transparent. Well, if I type in the word token, which is something that he thought was important or would tie into both Bitcoin and Ready Player One, specifically like the Pac-Man scene where he got the token, the one up or what extra life. Yeah. So he said token. I'm like, okay, well, let me try that for this. And then, so if I remove this highlighting, it's GOLD. I'm like, wait a second, there's gold at that X. I'm like, that is quite a coincidence too. And so I've been kind of going down a different rabbit hole. And after seeing that, I'm like, man, maybe I really need to like start focusing on this or spend half the time on this as I have in my other research. Because that to me is quite a coincidence that you're finding gold at the X. And I feel like the word token does tie in well with Bitcoin and Ready Player One, kind of like a store of value, both past and future. So Cody, good job. Thank you for that. But yeah, I think I'm going to start possibly going down that rabbit hole. But yeah, just something cool that I found. Maybe it's an Easter egg, or maybe not. Maybe it's more important than that.
Yeah, I always like listening to them. I started early on when they first started, and I love the format and of the stuff they put out. They're pretty clever over there.
Yeah, I don't follow a lot of stuff. I did get into their podcast because I could listen to it while I was running or doing chores and whatnot, and kind of have it on in the background. And it was like a way for me to keep my finger on the pulse of the hunt without like being super active in it, because I was slightly burnt out. But now I've got more channels that I gotta watch videos for and whatnot.
Yeah, they're good for also overall what's like the temperature of everything, what's going on and stuff. But Mike, do you have any other questions for him on this?
No, I mean, I'm sitting here reeling about that gold thing. That's really cool.
Hey, isn't that cool? I don't know if I should even shared that, but that blew my mind when I first saw that.
No, that's brilliant. And if that's if Mike doesn't have any more questions, we're getting up on the mark of the hour here. And, Robert, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your site. And also
my pleasure.
Appreciate you spending your time and effort and putting this together. This is a great treat for the treasure hunting community. And Mike, thank you for a last minute invite to join on the call. I know it was last minute, but I do appreciate you coming on as well.
My pleasure.
I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. Very nervous about my first time being on YouTube.
Oh, you did great.
You made it a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to have you on sometime if you do any updates or you have any other news or just you want to chat about the chapter. We'd love to have you on again.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Right. Thanks. And we'll see everybody later.